Good evening, everyone. We continue our study in the book of Jeremiah. We're now in Jeremiah 51. We continue the second half of Jeremiah 51 from verse 33. It begins again saying this: For thus says the Lord of hosts, Elohim of Israel. We find every now and then in these two chapters, 50 and 51, that God speaks in an interjection, and then in between you have Jeremiah speaking out in a representation of Judah. Now, this is what God is saying with regards to Babylon. A lot of words have been said concerning the destruction of Babylon, and God gives these words. It says, the daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor. It is time to thresh her. In a little while, and the time of harvest will come. Now, some of these appears to be a little bit cryptic, but basically, if you take a look at the text in its literal form, it says the daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor at its time of threshing. Well, that would be an easier way to look at this verse. It is a time of threshing. So you think of Babylon as a threshing floor. What is a threshing floor? A threshing floor is an area whereby people are trying to thresh. And thresh would means that they will gather all the bundles of wheat and they will throw it onto the ground, and they're trying to dislodge the wheat from the stalk. And this essentially is an act of, I guess you can say, thrashing is like smashing the wheat uh, corns onto the floor so that it drops onto the threshing floor. When it drops onto the threshing floor, they will use the bull or the calf or the cows to use their hoofs to break the shells. And after they've done that, they will sweep it into a container, and then they will throw it into the air, and that will be called winnowing, which we saw yesterday. When the wind blows, the husks will be blown away, and only the wheat will fall down. So the threshing floor is now a picture of Babylon, that it is time to do damage to her. And the whole idea of threshing is that they are busy doing things, preparing for the harvest. So a threshing floor is basically this particular place. And that is what the text is saying. Babylon is like this area to be used in this particular way. He says, but in a little while, her harvest will come. The harvest of wheat will come to Babylon, and the threshing floor will be used. So God is purely saying the timing of the destruction of Jerusalem will be soon, because the threshing floor is being prepared for threshing. They will be harvest and then they'll do the threshing. Verse 34. Verse 34 now declares this: Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, has devoured me, crushed me, made me an empty vessel, swallowed me up like a monster, filled its stomach with my delicacies, spit me out. Now, these words here, let me just draw a line, is spoken by Jeremiah on behalf of Judah. And it's like Judah complaining to God. So Jeremiah speaks to God and says, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, uh, he has eaten me. Right? That's the idea. He has eaten me. He has crushed me. This idea of crushing is to break me apart. He has made me an empty vessel. He has swallowed me up like a monster. And I want to bring this attention to you. This word is panin. And you find this word in Genesis chapter 1, verse 22. Genesis chapter 1, verse 22, on day 5 of the narrative, there is a word there, taninim, which is in the plural. This is in the singular, and it should rightfully be translated as a sea monster, not just monster, but a very large sea creature. And so this is a picture. It says Nebuchadnezzar is like a sea monster that has swallowed me, Judah. He has filled his stomach with my delicacies. The idea of delicacies is things that he delights. It's like fine food, right? It's like fine food, things that will delight him. And after that, he has, it is not spit, right? This is not spit. This is caused caused to rinse me out. Now, what does that mean? It means this. When Nebuchadnezzar is portrayed here as this ogre that has come to devour, eat me up, crush me, uh, empty me up, and the vessel is now empty, swallow me in like a sea monster, fill up his stomach as if I am his fine food delicacy, and then he rinse me out. Now, this is the idea. The idea is that you have a vessel that not only you have empty, emptied it, you actually wash it clean. There's no more remnant of what is there in its original place. And so this is the complaint by Jeremiah on behalf of Judah that Nebuchadnezzar came and it is beyond expectation. He did what he did to completely wipe us out and wash the land clean of any Jews. Verse 35. Let the violence done to me and my flesh be upon Babylon. The inhabitant of Zion will say that would be the inhabitant of Jerusalem. Remember that Jeremiah represents the interest of Jerusalem. And it says this, and my blood be upon the inhabitants of Chaldea. Jerusalem will say. The picture here is a cry to God. And you find that this cry to God talks about a violent uh, destruction, a violent clearing of Judah. And it was not expected. They are now taken in exile. They are also knowledgeable that the temple is destroyed. But Jeremiah doesn't talk about the exile nor the temple being destroyed. The complaint to God is how Nebuchadnezzar violently cleared Judah so that there is nothing left. It's cleaned out, rinsed out, eaten Judah like fine dining, swallowed Judah down into the stomach like a sea monster, completely crushed and emptied Judah. And so this is the cry in 35. Let the Hamas that Babylon did to Judah be repaid. Now that would be 34 and 35. We find in 36, it is another uh, retort by God Himself. Therefore, thus says the Lord. And God is saying this: Behold, I, Jehovah, will plead your Jerusalem case and take vengeance for you, Jerusalem. So God will take vengeance. Yesterday, we saw an earlier passage, the vengeance that God wants to take upon Babylon was because of the destruction of the temple. And here in 34 and 35, Jerusalem is complaining that they have been violently treated by Babylon and they should be repaid for that kind of a violence. And so God says, I will do that. I will dry up her sea and make her springs dry. These are all poetic language that Nebuchadnezzar's nation of Babylon one day will be a dried up heap. Babylon shall become a heap, a dwelling place for jackals where there is no life, an astonishment and a whistling. This hissing is a whistling. Now, what does that mean? It means that people come by and they will be shocked and they will whistle. It says, oh my goodness, what happened to the nation of Babylon? There is nobody around, and people will be shocked. In verse 38, there is a there are two ways of actually looking at this. So it says, they shall roar together like lions, they shall growl like lion whelps. In one aspect, some will think that they here is really Medo Persia. And so Medo Persia will come roaring like lions, growling like lion whelps. And that's one view of this. The second view of this is that these are the description of the Babylonian excitement. That Babylon is not anticipating any foreign powers to come to take them. It is an expression that they are thinking that everything is happy. And then it continues in verse 39 in their excitement, as these two statements talk about the excitement. God says, I will prepare their feasts. In 39, the word feasts here is about a feast that is, by implication, a lot of drinking. Now, this is not a feast in the ritual sense of the Jewish feast, which is a hug, which is a celebration which jumps around. In this particular word that's translated as feast, it is about a celebration by drinking. It's a very different word used here, although the English word seems to be the same. God says, in their excitement, I will prepare their drinking celebrations. And by drinking, it is not water, it is alcoholic, it is intoxicating. And God says, I will make them drunk. Now, this is to be drunk, be intoxicated. The idea of being intoxicated is to be under the influence of alcohol. And in that sense, when they are tipsy or drunk, then they will rejoice. They will be very happy. They will rejoice. They will jump for joy as if they are the ones who are celebrating about themselves. And they will go into a sleep. Now, this word here is a perpetual sleep. And this perpetual, the word perpetual here is olam. And it's translated generally as forever, but it should mean a long time. It is not an eternal sleep in the sense that they will sleep on and on and on, but this is a sleep where they will sleep for a long time and they will not awake. Now, this word awake here is to be aroused. They will not be aroused. What does that mean? It means that they will be so drunk that they will be sound asleep, very sound asleep, says Jehovah. And then it says, I will bring them down like lambs to a slaughter, like rams with male goats. These are pictures of a slaughter. Now, when animals are brought down to slaughter, they are quiet. And so, like lambs to a slaughter, like rams with male goats, quiet. And so you find that this is such a case that it's a prophecy that when Medo Persia comes after them, they are in a state of drunkenness. Now, in this case, you can go back and read Daniel chapter 5, and that's a prophecy. In Jeremiah 51, it's talking about a future, very far down in the future, almost 70 years. And towards that 70th year, Belshazzar will have a what we call a drinking feast, and they will be drunk. And that is what we see in the historical aspect of the text. Here is prophetic. Daniel 5 is the actual history. And it says here, I will bring them down and they will come quietly. They won't make a noise because they're all asleep. They are all drunk. And when Medo Persia takes on Babylon at this time, Babylon, the city, is completely undefended. And Medo Persia just strolls right in. Now, you may want to go and read up on how the Medo Persian kingdom came after the city of Babylon under the moat. And when they entered into Babylon, they actually took the city without a fight. Just like this, that they were all asleep, they were drunken, they were enjoying themselves. And they had so much to drink that when the enemies came and took over Babylon, when they woke up, it was all over. Now, that would be the idea. They are so quiet, they never fought back because they were drunk. In verse 41, then we have this, oh, how Shishak is taken. Now, again, just like in verse 1, there is this way of Jewish hermeneutics that this is a code. Sheshach, which is uh, two shin and calf, and it can be mapped onto an Aleph bet table, and this becomes Bavel. And so Shishak represents Babylon. Now, I will leave the details of this mapping uh, for you to actually research on, but just know that there is such hermeneutics in Jewish biblical studies. Now it says, oh, how Shishak is taken, and how the praise of the whole world, of the whole land is seized. The land of Babylon, how Babylon has become desolate among the Goyim. Now, these are poetic words to describe how bad it would be for Babylon. The sea has come up over Babylon. She is coming covered with a multitude of its waves. Now, where do you find the sea coming up over Babylon? This, for the sea to come up to Babylon and cover her, this will be a huge tsunami wave that will come right into Babylon. And this is a poetic language. The poetic language is that Babylon, anywhere near Babylon, there's no sea. But it's a poetic language that says that the Babylon will be flooded. It will be covered by the sea on the waves that's going to smash onto her walls. Her cities are a desolation. They will be desolate, a dry, arid land. It will become a wilderness, a desert, a land where no one will live, through which no one will pass through. I will punish Baal in Babylon now. Just as God dealt with the Elohim of Egypt in the Exodus, God will deal with the major deity called Baal in Babylon. And God says, and I will bring out of his mouth, his would be Baal's mouth, what he has swallowed. Some say that these are all the nations, or is the goal that it's more figurative or more metaphorical. It is as if God is going to put his hand into the mouth of Baal and just extract out all the good people and the good nations that he has swallowed. And the nations shall not stream to him anymore. There is no more respect because Baal is going to be no more. And then it says here, yes, the wall of Babylon has fallen. The wall of Babylon will tumble. Now, this is interesting because the wall of Babylon is very huge. Think of it this way, if this was Babylon in the city, the wall of Babylon can actually house a highway to have chariot races around Babylon. It is that big a wall. And so to say that the wall of Babylon shall fall is really giving a prophecy that no one can believe. Except that when God says it through Jeremiah, even these walls will come down, and they did. Now we're talking about the city of Babylon, not the entire country and not the entire nation or the kingdom. It's the city of Babylon. It says, my people, the Jews, escape from her. Now in 45, it says escape is to go out, run away, and let everyone save himself or escape himself from the fierce anger of the Lord. And why? Because the fierce anger of the Lord is upon Babylon. And since Babylon is going to be destroyed and anger of God is going to be upon Babylon. God says, my people, be smart, leave. If you stay there, you'll be collateral damage. When you stay there, you'll be so scared of God. It says, lest your heart faint, and you fear for the rumor that will be heard in the land, that the fierce anger of the Lord is so intense that you will be weak in your knees. In verse 46, it says here, a rumor will come that year, right? Not 1 year, that year. And after it, a report in the next year. A rumor will come. Now, this word, a rumor will come, is a repeat. Uh, it should be this, a rumor here. After that, in the next year. And then it says, and violence in the land, and one ruler is going to fight another. They are going to be totally confused. Therefore, behold, the days are coming. It is coming soon that I, Jehovah, will bring judgment. In verse 47, it says here that God will, I guess it says, will come and judge. Okay, I think bring judgment is a good word. The word here is to visit. God will visit, bring judgment on the carved images of Babylon, that will be Baal, etc. Her whole land will be ashamed, and all her slain shall fall in her midst. Now, 48 tells us this: the heavens and the earth and all that is in them, they shall rejoice over Babylon. Now, you would probably have seen these words before, because in the book of Psalms, you'll find some of these about praising God. But here it says the heavens and the earth and all that is in them, they are going to be very happy. It says, why? Because the plunderers shall come to her from the north. And this will be Medo Persia. They are all going to be very happy and celebrate over Babylon, because the day will come when Babylon herself will be plundered from the north. Verse 49 is because Babylon caused the slain of Israel to fall. Babylon caused Israel to fall. And so at Babylon, the slain of all the land shall fall, and all the land will be Babylon herself. You who have escaped the sword, get away, do not stand still. Remember the Lord afar off, and let Jerusalem come to your mind. All of this is about the Jews in exile. Now remember, the Jews in exile are not only in Babylon city, they are all over the place. And so God says, those of you in Babylon, that you have escaped the sword when you were in Jerusalem, Now you're in Babylon, and this is coming, that all of Babylon will fall. So get away. Verse 50 is escape. Don't stand still. Remember, bring to mind God who is afar off. Go back to Jerusalem. Verse 51. Verse 51 says this as a response uh, by Jeremiah for on behalf of the Jews. And the word spoken is this: We are ashamed, God, because we have heard reproach, words of disgrace. Disgrace. We have heard. Why? Because they are in exile. But what happened was in Jerusalem, they heard something. Shame has covered our faces, for strangers have come into the sanctuaries of the Lord's house. Now, this would be Babylon destroying the temple. And the people are so ashamed. Verse 52. It says, God is speaking again. Therefore, behold, the days are coming, says Jehovah, that I will bring judgment. Now, this word will bring judgment is to visit again, to visit on her carved images, on all the idols, and throughout her land, the wounded shall groan. These are words that are spoken by God. That again, he says, it is against the idols of Babylon. In verse 53, though Babylon were to mount up to heaven, if Babylon were to ascend up to heaven, right? If she can do that, and if she was to fortify the height of her strength, well, the height of her strength would be the walls. And God says, from me, plunderers will come to her, the northern kingdom of Medo Persia. The sound of a cry comes from Babylon, and a great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans. Why? Because Jehovah is plundering Babylon. It used to be the other way around. But now God is leading the Medo Persian Empire in the future to plunder Babylon and silencing her loud voice, though her waves roar like great waters and the noise of their voice is uttered. When they cry out, Babylon is really a bold and strong nation. But because the northern lands are coming, the plunderer, as they are called, comes against her, against Babylon, and her mighty men are taken prisoner. Every one of her bows is broken, for Jehovah is the God of recompense. He will surely repay. Again, we will deal with these words in 56. God is a God of shalom. Pay back completely. Remember what I said yesterday? When a debt is paid back completely, that's shalom, then the situation will be shalom. He will surely repay. He will surely shalom in full to Babylon. Now, this is a very terrifying expression. God is going to repay you in full, means that what is due to you, in this case, vengeance and destruction, God will bring every single thing he said to bear. Continuing in 57, God says, I will make you drunk. That would be Daniel chapter 5. Belshazzar will and all the merry men were drunk. Her princes and wise men, her governors, deputies, mighty men, drunk to a point where they are all going to fall asleep. And they shall sleep a perpetual sleep. They shall definitely sleep to Olam for a long time, and they shall not be aroused, says the king, whose name is Jehovah Tsevaot. Thus says Jehovah Tsevaot. And these are words that is declared upon Babylon. The broad walls of Babylon shall be utterly broken. Broad walls, walls that can have chariot races. Think about it. Around the city, they will be broken. A high gate will be burned with fire. The people will labor in vain. They can't put the fire out. The nations, because of the fire, they will be tired. They can't put the great fire off. Now, all of these prophecies will end here in verse 58. In the last passage from verses 59 to 64, now comes a last instructions with regards to Babylon. It says, the word which Jeremiah the prophet commanded Seraiah, the son of Neriah, the son of Mahseiah. And he went with Zedekiah, the king of Judah, to Babylon in the 4th year of his reign. And Seraiah was the quartermaster. Now, what is the quartermaster? This word, a quartermaster, means one who pays tribute. That is a quartermaster. This is in charge of tribute. And so think with me, this is Seraiah, and it says he went with Zedekiah, the king of Judah. Physically, it appears that Zedekiah never went in the 4th year. It was Seraiah who represented Zedekiah. And so Seraiah would be what we call the messenger, one who is empowered to represent Zedekiah. So it's as if Zedekiah went. And he went there to Babylon in the 4th year to pay tribute. Now, at this time in the 4th year, Zedekiah was still friendly with Babylon. And then later, he turned around and sought protection from Egypt to spite the king of Babylon. And obviously, when the time came in the year 7 and 8, and he would be placed into a siege, and in year 11, the siege was broken into the walls of Jerusalem, and Zedekiah was captured. Now, this is before Zedekiah was captured, because we're talking about the 4th year, when the time was still in peace with the king of Babylon. Now, what did Jeremiah do is this. He says in verse 60, so and then. After Seraiah came, Jeremiah wrote in a scroll all the evil, all the Ra. I think this is what we can say. All the Ra or Ra'ah that will come upon Babylon. This is not everything in the book of Jeremiah. It is all the prophecies that has to do with the destruction of Babylon. He put it into a book. He says all these words that are written against Babylon. And then Jeremiah, after writing And then Jeremiah said to Sariah, he says, when you arrive in Babylon, in verse 61, when you come to Babylon, you will read it. This is the instruction. When you come to the place in verse 61, you will come and see what's inside this book. Everything that was written against Babylon is there, and then read all these words. Now, this word read, I think would be better to read out loud, right? Read out loud so that everyone can hear. And then you shall say, O Lord, O Jehovah, you have spoken against this place to cut it off. Now, to cut it off means to end its grandeur, to end its power, to end its existence, so that none shall remain in it. The city of Babylon, neither man nor beast, but it shall be desolate forever. So the words will be read out loud. Now, continuing on, it says in verse 63, and then it shall come to pass, and this is what you can see when you have finished reading this book, that you shall tie a stone to it. After you tie a stone through it, go and throw it into the Euphrates, the big rushing river. Then you shall say, thus Babylon shall sink and not rise from the catastrophe. Remember this word catastrophe? The evil. Unfortunately, English loves all the synonyms, right? The evil that I will bring upon her because she never repented. And they shall be weary, the nation will be gone. And thus far are the words of Jeremiah from God against Babylon. And with this, we come to the end of the prophecy, all the prophetic words regarding the destruction of Babylon, way up front, at least 60 over years before all these things happened. And when it happened exactly as in this chapter. And the fulfillment is found in Daniel chapter 5. And with this, we come to the end of our session today.